Welcome to BBC London. I'm Assad Ahmed. On the programme tonight, 500 million journeys and counting. Despite regular issues and cancellations, the Elizabeth line is a success, with areas around it booming. We see if the success of the Elizabeth line adds weight to the argument for more new lines in London. Also tonight, a search for answers. We hear about the heartache for one family who want to lay their mother's missing remains to rest. Getting workers back to the office. The businesses looking at how to incentivise top talent.
We were to move to kind of more days in the working week. There would definitely be people that would consider if that was for them.
Having the flexibility to work from home on Mondays and Fridays is great, but I have really missed kind of coming into the office.
And Bromley Football Club, established 1892, 133 years on, they finally reached the FA Cup third round for the very first time. Now, can they cause a shock at Newcastle?
Very good evening. The Elizabeth line, billions of pounds in the making, long delays before the first train even ran, but less than 3 years since it opened and more than 500 million journeys have been made on it. Well, that's a roaring success by any standard. In addition to that, and supporting the case for more investment in new lines, is the fact that many people who live around the Elizabeth line already know that jobs and investment have been created along the route. Looking at the line is Wendy Hurrell.
3, 2, 1. Yay!
Finished late and over budget, there was nonetheless great excitement when the Elizabeth line finally opened in May 2022.
Here we go, everybody. Here we go. Doors closing.
Since then, 500 million passenger journeys have been made. There has been some criticism, including from the Mayor of London. Customers complain there's overcrowding in some stations, and the Elizabeth line topped the list for most cancellations in the first year it was open. But Transport for London says that overall, the £18.9 billion infrastructure project has been a success. A TfL evaluation study found that between 2017 and 2022, housing growth has risen in areas within a kilometre of an Elizabeth line station. From 2015 to 2022, almost 378,000 additional jobs were created. The biggest change is in Abbey Wood, where there was a 6% increase in new homes and 11% rise in access to employment. One business inside Bond Street Station says it made a significant profit last year. The increased footfall has helped.
I think in the beginning we thought Elizabeth line's open, so it's going to be really busy, but I think everything new takes time. So it did start with a quieter period, but it did really take off towards early last year, 2024. And then it's just been growing since then, for sure. We can see that in the numbers.
For TfL, this report will help to offset some of the more negative headlines.
There's always more to do in railways, and there's particular challenges out west for our colleagues in Network Rail dealing with Victorian infrastructure. But the good news is they've got literally tens of millions of pounds of investment going in out there, and we're already seeing the benefits of some of that. So always more to do, but very high customer satisfaction and an increasingly frequent and increasingly reliable service.
And they hope these findings increases confidence in future infrastructure projects.
Everybody's focused on growth at the moment, so showing just how significant the Elizabeth line is allows us to make a better case for things like the Docklands Light Railway to Thamesmead, West London Orbital, extension of the Bakerloo line, and ultimately Crossrail 2.
Wendy Hurrell, BBC London.
The family of a woman who was killed by her abusive boyfriend in Catford have spent their second Christmas and New Year without knowing the whereabouts of their mother's remains. Fiona Holmes was killed by Carl Cooper in 2023. He was jailed for life, but he's never revealed where Miss Holmes' body is. Tolu Adeoye has been hearing about the distress that's caused.
It's my mum's birthday on the 14th of January. She would have been 50. She wanted a birthday party. So, yeah, it's going to be a bit depressing for us on that day.
It was on Friday the 20th of June 2023 when Savannah's mother Fiona was killed by her abusive boyfriend Carl Cooper at his flat in Catford. Almost 19 months on, her mother's remains still haven't been found, tormenting her family.
Everybody's having restless nights, not sleeping. I've had alopecia, everyone's had like stress rashes. Like, it's really horrible because we just want to give her the send-off that she deserves.
Cooper was jailed for life in July last year for Fiona's murder and that of a previous girlfriend, Naomi Hunt. She was stabbed to death on Valentine's Day in 2022. He was released without charge at the time, and the following year he killed Fiona.
My greatest regret will always be that there wasn't sufficient evidence to charge him earlier.
During his trial, the jury heard how he was a great danger to women and had been controlling and coercive towards both victims.
The Met says it's carried out extensive inquiries to try and find Miss Holmes' body, including searching open spaces, bodies of water, houses, cars, lockups. It's renewed its appeal for information that helps lead to finding her body and confirmed a £20,000 reward still remains in place.
Fiona was a mum of 4. Her youngest is just 7 years old and now lives with Fiona's sister, Elise.
I see Fiona every day because I see she acts like my sister. So it's a bit more harder for me.
What would you say to anyone who might have that information you need?
Just come forward. No, there's got to be an answer, some goodness in you. They've got to come forward.
Is that Helena's?
It's thought Cooper could have had help concealing his crime. It had been hoped his conviction would prompt someone to speak up. For Fiona's family, the heartbreaking wait for answers continues. Tolu Adeoye, BBC London.
Well, you're watching BBC London. Here's a look at what's still to come on the programme. If you're feeling the pinch post-Christmas, we'll let you know where you can find fun family activities for free. The head of the Metropolitan Police's Black Police Association has been found to have committed gross misconduct over a group chat where racist, sexist and inappropriate messages were sent and received. Inspector Charles Ehikoya had denied the allegations against him and said the claims were fabricated. Anna ONeal has been following this case closely. Anna.
That's right. Well, you'll know that the Met Police Commissioner has vowed to clear up toxic behaviour, and that's after the Baroness Casey review in 2023 that found the Met to be institutionally racist, homophobic and misogynistic. And it also found that black officers were disproportionately represented in the misconduct system. So as part of a clean-up of the Met, a number of phones of officers were seized and a number of WhatsApp groups analysed. And when they were looking into one of those officers' phones which had been seized, they found a long-running WhatsApp conversation between a PC, who's now been dismissed, and his superior, Charles Ehikoya, who was also the chair of the Metropolitan Black Police Association. They looked at more than 7,000 messages between them. Hundreds of them were found to have breached standards of professional behaviour. They included messages that were sexist, misogynist and derogatory to women, as well as racist messages, particularly to East Asian people, and messages of extreme violence and messages showing extreme sex acts. Now, Charles Ehikoya, who was a sergeant and then an inspector, agreed that the messages were inappropriate at the hearing, but he claimed he never sent them. He said they were planted by unknown other officers with a racist motive. Now, the misconduct panel found this to be fanciful, far-fetched and totally implausible. They found Ehikoya and his wife not to be credible witnesses, and they found him guilty of gross misconduct, and today they dismissed him from the Metropolitan Police. A short while later, he had this to say outside the hearing.
I believe this outcome was manipulated to ensure a finding against me and is part of a deliberate campaign to smear my reputation. The process from the very beginning has been flawed, and it is clear to me that this decision is an attempt to silence my voice in the fight against the endemic racism within the MPS.
Now, I understand Mr Ehikoye is being supported by the National Black Police Association.
That's right. So the National Black Police Association has been looking at the whole process and whether black officers are treated the same as their white counterparts. Andy George is the president of the National Black Police Association. I asked him today outside the hearing whether the Met was still a racist, homophobic and misogynist organisation.
The Metropolitan Police Service most definitely still has issues with racism and with misogyny across the board. We continue to work with Lady Angelini. We continue to work with Baroness Casey and others to highlight that plight. You know, we have many members that are still suffering. We have many members that have left the service because of being disproportionately impacted. We've also seen other members be accused of many different misconduct behaviours that are given lighter sanctions, that don't find themselves in a misconduct hearing. So we will continue to advocate for them.
Charles Ehikoye, meanwhile, has continued to fight to clear his name.
Anna ONeal, thanks very much. Well, let's take a brief look now at some other stories making their news today. The search and rescue operation for a second British man who went missing while hiking in Italy's Dolomite Mountains has been called off for the day. Aziz Ziriat and Samuel Harris went missing on New Year's Day. A body believed to be that of Mr Harris was found earlier this week. The London Ambulance Service says December saw more 999 calls about the most serious life-threatening conditions than any month in its history. Respiratory viruses, cold weather and festive celebrations all contributed to high call volumes. The service says this winter is proving extraordinarily challenging. And the American NFL Football League has announced the Jacksonville Jaguars will return to Wembley in the autumn. The Cleveland Browns and New York Jets will play at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. 3 more teams will be unveiled and ticket details for the hugely popular games will be released later this year. Now, it's 4 days since teenager Kellan Bassa was fatally stabbed on a bus in Woolwich. The hunt for his killer or killers is still underway. Frankie McCamley, who's been in the area this week and has been speaking to a youth worker about rising tensions in the area and fears for young people's safety.
Emotions are high, and parents are scared for their children. And this needs to be taken into account that, this isn't something that, happened a year apart. It's getting worse. And now another child, and we need to look at it, as I keep saying, this is children killing children. This isn't about, pointing fingers or the blame game. This is about talking with each other and finding solutions.
What is next?
They need people to listen to them. They need people to understand the pressures that they're under. They also need people to actually listen to the pressures their parents are under. The community, as a whole, that the things that we have to face. The cost of living in a household now doesn't add up to, the income. Like, the system's broken. And it's a ripple effect of this that is letting people take other avenues, to survive. I want the opportunity to sit with those people within the government, within the local authorities, and really have a real deep conversation about what needs to be done. And I can tell you from a parent's point of view, even I'm scared. I have quite a big family, I have children. And what is there for them in the future? What is there for our children? Can we say that our children are not going to be subjected to this? No parent can, regardless of where you come from, because it's a growing concern.
Now, yesterday we reported about the increasing number of employers wanting staff back in the office as opposed to working from home. But employers also need to consider being an attractive place to work in order to incentivise people to come in. Well, Nikki Ford has been looking at what's being done about it.
It's lunchtime at the headquarters of this food delivery firm. Just Eat for Business provides a daily food allowance as a benefit to encourage their staff back into the office from 2 days up to 3.
I think it's a very emotional, very personal thing from a benefit point of view. I think it creates a moment, right? We're all human, so it creates this moment that you can sit down, you can have a conversation with people you might not otherwise speak to.
A workplace perk that's on the rise. They work with nearly 3,000 companies, many of whom signed up in the last couple of years.
I think it's a relatively affordable benefit in the scheme of benefits you can offer to your team.
For employees here, it's a hotly debated topic as to how many days they're prepared to be in the office.
I think if we were to move to kind of more days in the working week, there would definitely be people that would consider if that was for them.
Having the flexibility to work from home on Mondays and Fridays is great, but I have really missed kind of coming into the office.
I think actually a 5-day working week in the office personally puts me off now. I think that remote working is so important.
It's about 2/3 of men go into the office typically.
Those views bear out research from property consultancy Bidwells, who surveyed 400 companies in London for employee habits.
Most people are going into the office on sort of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the middle of the week, typically 70 or 80%. But on a Monday, it's only around half of people. And on a Friday, it's even lower. It's sort of around about 40%. I think a lot of it does have to do with the time spent commuting. Over a third of people based in London said it was more than an hour.
When it comes to the impact that hybrid working...
But landlords are working on making the office space worth that journey in.
One of the things we talk about quite a lot is this idea of earning the commute. Look, if you're an employer and you want to get people back into the office, there's not that much you can do to make people's commute better. It's the bit that they often don't really like about their day. People generally say they don't mind being in the office, but it's that maybe that dead time or that not particularly pleasant time commuting that's the issue. So what you can do, though, is make sure when they have done that commute, they're having the best possible experience when they are in.
And that's in the form of these new so-called office hotels, like this one at number 8 Bishopsgate, a 50-floor building with an auditorium built in, a high-end service with a high-end price tag to match.
Spaces like this, what they actually do, you know, they really work quite hard. You can pull seats back. And I know here, for example, they use it as a yoga studio a few times a week. So not just hitting that sort of more formal, what is it an office needs, but actually thinking about things, again, well-being, the experience of employees as they come to the space, and it really just being another benefit you can have to say, look, it's worth getting up and coming in.
Some employers pulling out the stops to entice their workers back in. More to do, though, perhaps, if they want them in for a full working week. Nikki Ford, BBC London.
And there's a feature piece on working from home on the BBC London website, or you can see it on the news app. It asks whether we could be seeing the beginning of the end of working from home. And it's written by Nikki Ford, who you just heard there, and Victoria Cook. It is Friday evening, and here's a word from Samantha Simmons about what you can watch on Sunday.
Coming up on this week's programme, as the weather drops below freezing, what can be done to get rough sleepers off London's streets? Do join me, Samantha Simmons, this Sunday at 10 a.m. on BBC One. See you then.
Football, and it's a busy weekend of FA Cup action coming up. Both men's and women's competitions have reached the stage where the biggest teams get involved. A number of lower ranked sides are also dreaming big, as Chris Legg now reports.
26.
Newcastle United have a home game.
Newcastle, 5th in the Premier League, a dream draw for the next team out of the bowl.
And they'll be taking on Bromley.
Oh. And this is what it meant to the CEO and assistant manager. Having led Bromley into the Football League for the first time last May, manager Andy Woodman has now taken the club into the FA Cup third round for the first time in its 133-year history.
For our fans, you know, if we'd have said to them a year ago, this time last year, we'd be in the league and we'll be playing a Premiership club in the FA Cup third round, I think they'd have thought we was all crackers. So you could say it's been a great 12 months to be a Bromley fan.
This is Hayes Lane, where Bromley play their home games in front of around 5,000 people. On Sunday, they'll step out at an arena that holds more than 10 times that amount. A true cathedral of English football, St James's Park.
It's a stadium that can hold 52,000 people. It's likely to be the biggest crowd many of Bromley's players have ever appeared in front of.
This is going to be a massive atmosphere, not many spare seats. It's going to be a different occasion for myself and the rest of the team, I'm sure, but one that, as a footballer, you look towards. You know, if you don't enjoy these days, there's not many days you're going to enjoy, so yeah, we're excited and looking forward to it.
In the Women's FA Cup, Chelsea are so often the team to beat. they haven't lost a match in any competition all season. For Tier 2 side Charlton, who have been drawn away to the Super League leaders, it's a daunting prospect.
If you're going to get a big team, then you may as well go as big as you can get. So, I mean, yeah, we're looking forward to it. Obviously, these are the games that you want to play in as a player, especially against Chelsea, obviously, established women's team. So, yeah, I think we're all looking forward to it.
Our winners today. Charlton are, in fact, former FA Cup winners, as are Fulham. But more than 20 years on, Fulham are now in the 5th tier. The lowest ranked team in the competition have been drawn against fully professional London City Lionesses.
The club itself, the women's section in particular, has got loads of history, and we're super proud of that as a club. Obviously, there's been lots of changes since then, and of course we can use some of it as inspiration, but we are set up very differently now, and so we're trying to look to sort of make our own history and see if that can be inspiring to us for the future as well.
Where will the FA Cup cast its spell this weekend? Chris Slegg, BBC London.
Now, January can be a difficult month. Not only is the festive period over, but it's cold and the bills from Christmas might be hanging over as well. But going out needn't cost you anything, thanks to a host of free things to do in London. And with fewer tourists at this time of year, it's a good time to go. Alice Bandukravi is at one of the brilliant free days out you can have at the Natural History Museum in South Kensington. Of course, Alice, over to you.
Assad, as you say, one of the most beloved places, one of the places that lives in so many of our memories as children, a place that lots of children still come to. We're in the mammal gallery here with large blue whale skeletons which are hanging from the ceiling. And I'm joined by the Director of Public Programming, Alex Burt. The Natural History Museum is one of the most visited tourist attractions in the capital, in the country, I think. Is January a good time to visit?
January is a really great time to visit. One of my most favourite galleries is the Mammal Gallery, where you can come face to face with a blue whale, find the skull of a mammoth that would have been walking around Ilford 200,000 years ago or so. The other gallery, which is really brilliant to visit at this time, is the Dinosaur Gallery, where you can hear a T-Rex roar or come close to a Triceratops.
And there are obviously some paid events, some paid exhibitions, but most of what happens here is free, isn't it?
That's right. And outside, we've opened 2 brand new galleries, the New Gardens. And there, if you wrap up warm at this time of year, you can walk through 2.7 billion years worth of history and stand under our latest dinosaur edition, Fern the Diplodocus.
Thank you so much. I've admired it so many times. Well, just down the road from here, over in Chelsea on the King's Road, the Saatchi Gallery have a free exhibition with sculptures outside that start in Duke of York Square. And I caught up with the artist, Philip Colbert, earlier on.
So yes, I have 4 outdoor steel sculptures here in Duke of York Square. This one is the lobster soup can. I love the bright colour red, and such a powerful colour. And so I think that also that sense of energy and humour that comes through with my work is also it's hugely elevated by bright pop colours.
So from Chelsea to Walthamstow, East 17, if you happen to find yourself there, you can warm yourself up from the cold in the warming glow of the neon signs at God's Own Junkyard. They have been making neon signs there for generations, and it's free to go and take a look at them, as I did earlier.
People can come along for free and see the signs that were on the sets of some of the important films that have been made in the past. We had a guest book for people to write in, and it really was all over the world. We was shocked that people knew of us.
So God's Own Junkyard open to the public on Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays. That's up in East 17. If you head down to the Tate Modern down in EC SE1, I should say, all sorts of free events and exhibitions and things that you can take part in with your family going up to the 12th of February. That's art exhibitions. You can head to the Barbican, where the conservatory is opening again. You need to sign up if you want to get tickets for that, because that is bookable. But of course, London is rich with plenty to do despite this cold weather, and a lot of them free of charge. Assad.
Yeah, absolutely. It's easy to forget as Londoners how many free things there are to do in London, but that's a good reminder for us. Alice Bandercraft at the Natural History Museum, many thanks for that. Now let's take a look at the weather forecast if you are going out, 'cause it's been a cold few days. How's the weekend looking?
Well, it will eventually turn a bit less cold. In fact, really quite warm for the time of year, but not until next week, Assad. So it is another cold weekend. Yeah, if you want to go and be warm and cosy in a museum, it's not a bad idea at all. There's still a bit of lying snow, in fact, across some of our southern home counties, Surrey and Kent. Here's Biggin Hill. So some lying snow here, but lots of blue sky around today, some areas of cloud at times, and temperatures really struggle to get above freezing, just 1-2 degrees Celsius at best for many. Now, this weekend, we keep the cold air again, widespread frost by night. There could be some issues with freezing fog, but there'll also be some sunshine on and off at times for many of us as well. And I'm just going to show you the bigger picture. Here is the pressure chart. So high pressure is dominant, and it's just blocking these weather fronts out towards the north and the west. So not quite allowing the milder air to get through to us just yet, but it will be turning milder further north and west across the UK as we head through the weekend. Eventually, Monday, Tuesday, temperatures will be rising for us too above the seasonal average, but lots of cold air to get through first. That's certainly true overnight tonight. Now, last night we got to -5, -6 degrees Celsius in a few spots. I think we're looking at the same sort of thing again tonight. There will be some freezing fog developing underneath those clear skies and with the very light winds. So where the freezing fog forms, it's going to be very stubborn to lift and clear tomorrow morning. Could linger on for much of the day, I think, where we see it. It won't be everywhere. And there will be some sunshine around as well. 1 to 3 degrees Celsius, if that, possibly under freezing, where we keep the freezing fog through the day. And it's the same again on Sunday with the high pressure going nowhere. So again, freezing fog patches. We should see some sunshine around, could get overtopped by a little bit of cloud perhaps here and there, but some brighter skies by the afternoon and feeling just a little bit milder. The milder air is coming our way as we head through the start of next week. So I'll just show you the temperatures. They're back up into double figures by the time we get to the middle of next week, which will feel an awful lot warmer for you.
Yeah, phew, exactly. Thanks very much, Elizabeth. Well, that's it for now. Frankie McCamney will be here with our late news at 10:30, of course, on BBC One. I'll be back with our weekend news tomorrow afternoon at 5:20. For now, have a good evening. Bye-bye.